Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Yo, what's poppin', Rush Nation? Welcome to week 6. Cannot believe I'm saying that already. I say welcome to week 6. Week 6 is done. We're basically at week 7. That's even further down the road. And I can't believe I said that as well. If you are joining us on the video, welcome in. If you are on audio, you would have heard him there. But if you're on the video, you would have seen him from the beginning. Big man, how are we?
Good. This time next week, we'll be over halfway through the fantasy football regular season.
And there we go. For anyone who's currently 0-5, that's basically your alarm bells wounding for the season's over.
That's okay, because I can help, because we've got our charity mid-season elimination league. So if you are 0-6 and you're staring at the barrel of not making your playoffs, don't worry about it. Just come sign up for the elimination league, £7.50 donation to charity, and you can be drafting a team as soon as tomorrow.
As soon as tomorrow. Feels like only yesterday I was in 100 drafts, and now there's another one just turning up. I mean, not only does it start early, no, that's not what I meant to say. Not only does it feel like it was only yesterday, and the season is, as Murf said, basically halfway finished now for the regular season, there's another draft. So,
speaking of which, I'm on the clock.
Yeah.
13th
Well, okay.
round. 13th round. So this is my team. In fact, I'm going to tell you who I'm going to take. So I stupidly took Justin Fields, and then news has come out that Russell Wilson's going to start.
No, because he's going to make one start, be absolutely pony like he was in Denver, and then Justin Fields will get his job back.
But given the fact that really it's just bye week cover for Jordan Love, so that's fine. I'd rather just hedge. Could I hedge? I don't really want to. I can't go to Sean Watson because it's the same bye week, and then the rest are like Will Levis and not confident enough job by then. Derek Carr's even come back by then. Yeah, you might talk me out of that pick.
There you go.
So, let me tell you who's on the board, right? Christian Kirk, no way. Keenan Allen's interesting. Jordan Addison's interesting. Christian Watson, Cortland Sutton, Romeo Dobbs. Raheed Shaheed is still there. Quentin Johnston is still there.
You want somebody who's trending up.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if there's anyone else on here that is of interest at wide receiver. I don't think there is. I've got enough running backs. I could take Pacheco for giggles as a running back 5. Rashad White's still there. Stevenson's still there. So there's still 3 guys there that I could take, but probably not. I've got TJ Hawkinson at tight end, so I don't need a tight end. It's really only wide receiver or I need. And it's elimination league, so if a team gets eliminated, then their whole roster becomes available for a bit like Guillotine.
Okay. Do we think that? I'm pretty sure that might be Keenan Allen's best week last week.
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? I think that could be the ceiling against the worst team in the league. I quite like Shaheed. I mean, Shaheed is right now wide receiver 22.
Do you not have a lot of exposure to him though?
Yeah, but it's a different league. Doesn't matter how much exposure. He's wide receiver. It's 12th round, mate. Wide receiver 22 overall. It's for me. It's Sutton as a safe play. Dobbs.
See, I think Sutton's safe play with increasing upside as the season goes on because I think the Denver offense will get better.
He's in the queue. So this is my team. It's Hurts, Love, Kamara, Montgomery, Godwin in the 5th round, which is criminal. Jaden Reed, Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Justin Fields, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Downs.
That's disgusting. People should really know how to draft against you by now. You draft in enough leagues with Rush Nation that
They let me have all my favourite guys.
yeah, you don't have to do that, guys.
Kamara,
Like
Brian Robinson. I said, "God, just have the same team. Why not? It works. Why fix it if it's broken?" Yeah, I've done it. I've punched Sutton.
yes, my guy, swoosh.
He's in. I've got a lot of Sutton, so why not?
Yeah,
Draft the team. Let's just draft the same team in a different league. Why not?
Yeah, I don't. Guys, come on, pay attention. You're drafting with Murf. Stop him getting all the people who he's good at getting.
5th round of Godwin was insane. I can't believe I got him. Like pre-season, all day long, I get that because like not many people had the conviction I did. But what is he like? Wide receiver 4?
I don't know.
He's got to be up there. Chris Godwin at this point is he's wide receiver 1. Oh.
Right, I think we need to change what we're doing on today's show about drafting. Why? Look, you can tell it's halfway through the season. I'm out of words, and the show's off the rails. We're 6.5 minutes in. Like, crazy stat. Obviously, you probably know this. Did you know that the Bears winning in London was the first time Jacksonville have been beaten in London?
No, that can't be true.
Look it up. I think that is true. Second of all,
at what? At the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or in London?
It just said in London. I'm prepared to be wrong on that. I just saw it, and also
at the Tottenham. No, they're 6-5.
Maybe at Spurs then. No, because they can't have played that many games at Spurs.
Played 11 times in London. 11 times in London over the past 10 seasons.
I didn't think they were good enough to be unbeaten.
They've had a couple of years where they have been back to back.
Both.
Okay, well that's
completely rubbish then, because they've only played. That's like
I'm pretty sure I've been to a few defeats.
I'm pretty sure didn't they get stuffed 44-0 by Baltimore one year? Or was that the Bears?
No, I think they stuffed Baltimore 44-0.
No. They did not.
Yeah, I think I swear I was at that game. I think they did.
Me too. Okay. The Bears have put up 35 points in 2 straight weeks for the first time since 2013.
Yeah, that's mad. All right, I'm trying to find the Jags' London games history and record. Here we are. Let's see, because sorry, they're 6-6 now because that stat was before.
That's even worse.
So the first one was 2013. They lost 42-10 to the 49ers. I'm trying to find the games. Okay, here we go. Sorry, you're right. They did. The Ravens did beat them 44-7.
44-7.
No, they didn't. They beat the Ravens 44-7. They beat the Ravens 44. It's confusing because it's all dependent on who the home team or away team is.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I wonder when the Ravens lost that badly since then, if they have at all.
I don't think they have. Yeah, it was. Because Blake Bortles had the game of his life, 4 TDs. I seem to remember that the quarterback for I seem to remember Flacco was benched. I seem to remember he had like the worst day in his career. I'm just pulling it up now. Joe Flacco went 8 of 18 for 28 yards.
That's pretty bad. 8
of 18 for 28 yards. That is criminal.
That's almost as bad as who did I see this week had 3 carries for -1 yard. Travis Etienne had the worst. All right, he got injured, but even -1 yard off 3 carries. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
At least do something. At least I think I had the worst loss in my fantasy career this week. I lost by 0.1 of a fantasy point. And that normally doesn't sound as bad, but I lost 309.6 to 309.7.
That's quite real.
Yeah, Mike Evans, thank you very much.
Got injured.
Yeah, I know, but it was him. He was the reason I lost, so therefore Mike Evans.
Why was he the reason? Why was it not any of the other players on your team?
Because everybody else overscored.
Okay.
So unfortunately, Mike Evans' injury cost me the win,
Okay.
or 1 yard from Garrett Wilson, one more yard from Garrett Wilson last night.
Well, Garrett Wilson, you might as well ship him for parts now.
Well, don't say that, Murph. That cannot be completely true, right?
Well, there's been some news today. I think we should probably talk about.
Well, I don't think we should. If we don't talk about it, it's not real. Okay, so the Jets, for some silly reason, against all advice given on this podcast and several other places, have signed Davante Adams for a 4th-round pick, which is a conditional second if something happens. I don't know what if they win the Super Bowl, or what's the deal with it turning to a second.
GM Jaron Bodgers was extremely delighted with the acquisition of Adams. Did you see that Davante Adams gate crashed the Pat McAfee show?
I did not. Go back. Wait, hold up. The GM's name is Bodgers.
Jaron Bodgers. It was a play on Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is signing all the players.
Oh, I was going to say, well, you have bodged that trade, but you got me good. Well done. Okay. I've had a long week and it's Tuesday. Come on. Why when they're not very good has he gone there? Like,
because his best mate is Aaron Rodgers, and he's like, why not?
Don't care. I want a ring. No.
He doesn't want a ring. You're not getting the Jets to win a ring. You're getting to the
That's
Jets
what I
to
mean.
Paid.
That's what I mean. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Like, go somewhere and get a ring.
Well, he's decided not to. He's decided that money is more important than the ring, and that's fine. Like, each to their own. Go and enjoy New York. I just feel really bad for him because he has a sweet little house with a Taco Bell inside in Vegas, and now he's not going to find that in Jersey. And I feel really sad for him that he can't have Taco Bell on demand.
No, but I did see earlier that there was a Bubba Gump shrimp next to a Raising Cane's, just on Broadway. So
that's what he's in about. But that's a different state. He's playing in Jersey, not playing in New York.
See, this is how bad how far apart is that?
Not far, 40-minute drive.
Well, there you go. He can get his driver to take him or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's about 45 minutes.
Greg the Leg had a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean the Jets are just this team where.
Sorry, Tom.
I don't really know. The thing is, I'm not shocked. Like, I'm not surprised. I just have apathy towards it because it's just what it is. What it is. Like, bad organizations make bad decisions, right? And there was just something about the Jets that inherently make bad decisions. And I don't think Joe Douglas is a really bad GM, but I almost feel like he gets bullied out of his conviction. Like, he drafts Sam Darnold, and I get Sam Darnold wasn't particularly brilliant in for the Jets, but he also wasn't bad. And I think the pressure of the Jets and New York, and even though they're in New Jersey, and 2 overall, and all of this and the fuzz of it all just kind of got in the way, because he's now in Minnesota. He's 5-0, and they're talking about him like he's an MVP candidate. Now, we've done this pivot. The only thing that's different with Sam Darnold is he's gone from the Jets to the Minnesota Vikings. You've put a competent quarterback coach with him in Kevin O'Connell, who used to play the position, who has understood what he is and how to maneuver and make the best of him. And that is, okay, you've given him Justin Jefferson. Let's not get it wrong here. That's a hell of a weapon to give a quarterback. but it's not just that. It's not the only reason he's good is because he's got Justin Jefferson, because the Jets are not going to win the Super Bowl because they've traded for Devontae Adams. Like, they're still going to miss the playoffs. So I'm just a bit... Bad organizations continually to make really bad decisions, and they just... What the Lions did, this is... If anyone wants a blueprint of how to turn an organization around, go do what the Lions did. What you do is you bring in someone who understands the place, understands everything there is to know about Detroit Lions football, and a really good football person. You then arm him with a great amount of control, and you say, right, and time. They're the two things, control and time. And you said, okay, right, we're going to make sure that we give you all the pieces that you need to build a competitive roster and change the fortunes of this franchise. And we're going to give you the time to do it. So if your first season you win 2 games, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We know it's a process. We're building towards something. And as long as every year we see incremental improvement, we're okay. And that is where the Lions went on. You know, they traded Stafford. They got Goff and the pick back. They've, drafted really well. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Forts and Press, Aiden Hutchinson, double leg break out for the season. Sam Laporta. Jameson Williams is starting to come good, but they've drafted really well on the offensive line. On the defensive line, they've drafted players like Brian Branch. On the back end,
Penny Sewell.
Penny Sewell is another one. They drafted his name is completely just escaped me. Not DeAndre Swift. Running back. Jahmyr Gibbs. They've drafted a lot of players that are high caliber quality guys, but high personality guys as well. And they've built this us versus them culture, and they're feeding into it, and they, made the NFC Championship game. They were pretty close against the 49ers too. So I just think that's what you need to do when you're an organization who continually makes the wrong decisions, is to do a great pivot. The Jets always feel like they're trying to buy into a window. They're trying to buy into a Super Bowl window because they've had all the draft picks and they've invested a lot of those draft picks in that offensive line. And we'll talk about the offensive line, but I'll talk about it now. It's historically bad. It's a really, really bad offensive line. So you've got all of this talent now with them. You've got you've got an amazing amount of talent. I can't find it now. I seem to have... I'm sure I wrote it down.
What about the O-line?
Yeah.
It's definitely in the show doc. I've got it in front of me.
Okay. I just...
Can you find it, or would you like me to talk about it?
Why don't you read it? Because I put it in the doc and I now can't find it. I've got it here. Sorry. 5th worst average time to pressure so far this season. 7th worst pressure rate over expected. So that means that the passing game is stilted. It's not working, but it's actually the running game that's really bad. The running backs are last in average yards before contact per attempt in the league. So this offensive line, which has got several high caliber draft picks in it, just not working. Doesn't work. And it's stilting the whole offense. Defense is good. Shown it's good. Can make plays, keep this team in games. It has done for a couple of years, but this offense doesn't work. Adding Devontae Adams is not going to improve this offensive line, and it's not going to improve this offense. It's just not. This is basically the biggest slap in the face to Garrett Wilson we've ever seen. And before Garrett Wilson, there was Elijah Moore, who is now at the Browns, and I guess he's now inherited a huge jump up there up the roster chart, which we'll get to shortly. But they've invested lots of high caliber picks in quarterbacks and wide receivers. They drafted, they've drafted 2 quarterbacks in the top 3. They've drafted multiple wide receivers in the 1st round. They've drafted multiple running backs in the 2nd round. Michael Carter before Breece Hall. It just seems to be that this team isn't well functioning. Well, his organization isn't well functioning. And why sacrifice future talent for this? This is the part I don't understand. Is you're giving away potentially a second-round pick now for a player who no doubt is one of the best of his generation. That's not besmirched Davante Adams, but is he really the piece that turns you into a Super Bowl contender? I don't think he is.
Yes.
Go invest in the offensive line. Go invest in multiple positions that are going to improve this team. Don't think wide receiver is the reason this team is lacking. You know, they went out in free agency and splashed for Mike Williams. They went out and splashed for Alan Lazard and other wide receivers. So this team's not short of talent in that room.
No. You know, Murph, I like to drop a completely useless and unnecessary stat throughout the podcast, and then you tell me I'm wrong. Did you know through 6 weeks, Zach Wilson and Aaron Rodgers have exactly the same points, 113?
In what? Total points scored?
Yeah. For the New York Jets through their first 6 weeks of last season and this season. 113 each, so...
And he got there on a Hail Mary, right? In terms of...
Yeah, I mean, there was that rain-soaked game against Denver. That obviously skews it a little bit. But, hey,
yeah.
While we are talking about the Jets, and we've mentioned Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams, does this arrow up, arrow down, what does it do for potentially those two pieces? Because the others are not as important, I guess, for our fantasy stock at the moment.
It's a strange one because I still don't know who's calling plays. There's a feeling it's Jeff Ulrich or whoever the interim coach is. Is it Aaron Rodgers calling the plays? It's not Nathaniel Hackett because they took the plays from him. So we don't actually know what Nathaniel Hackett does. Maybe he organizes the maybe he's learned like origami and he's in the boxes and he's doing like the little swans out of the napkins.
Well, yeah, apparently Todd Downing called the plays last night.
Okay, so Todd Downing, who was an absolute joke of like if Todd Downing's calling plays, okay. So if Todd Downing's calling plays, fine. That's who's calling plays. Okay. So Todd Downing's calling plays. So he has, I assume, a playbook. Maybe I'm making a leap here. Maybe he's written them out on the napkins that Nathaniel Hackett has handed him. That they were turning into swans. I don't know. So I would assume that Davante Adams is going to have to come in and learn said playbook. I assume that some stuff will be installed from that old Packers offense from yesteryear under Mike McCarthy. Woohoo. Let's get excited for that one. Yeah, baby. Just what we always needed. 2 Mike McCarthy offenses in the NFL. Because one was more than enough. So, like, he'll know some plays. There'll be some instant connection there because they played together for a number of years. But he won't know the calls. Like, there's really basic stuff here that he's going to need to learn and get up to speed. And it's going to take him a little while. Not tons of time, but 3 weeks, a month. Like, it's going to take him a little while to get up to speed. So, do I think that there's an immediate uptick? No, because for Aaron Rodgers, I don't think so. I mean, for Davante Adams, yes, because he's got a really bad hamstring problem that has miraculously healed in the last 24 or so hours.
The fresh air of New Jersey will do that for you.
It really will. Healing powers galore there. So, yeah, I mean, look, Davante Adams is going to do better than 0. Of course he is. Do I like this offense any better? No, I don't. Not for the... So, we're week 7. So, I would say it probably gets till week 11 until he's up to speed. They got a bye week 12. So you write off the next 5 weeks. So then you're week 13. Fantasy season's almost over. If you're relying on Aaron Rodgers in the fantasy football playoffs anyway, then you're pretty much done. So in all actuality, the only thing this really does sort of make me question is, I said last week I talked about Breece Hall being a buy low. And I talked about Breece Hall effectively having to become the focal point of this offense if this offense wants to do anything. And now I think through sheer stubbornness, that is not going to happen. I now think that they will force everything through to Davante Adams, and it will take a while to get up and going before it eventually clicks. The problem with that is now that makes my buy low take on Breece Hall really difficult to push through, because I don't think he becomes the focal point of this offense. And then that Garrett Wilson becomes Aaron Lazard. Aaron Lazard becomes Mike Williams. Williams goes somewhere else. Don't know where he goes. I don't imagine there was a big free agency market for him. They paid him a lot of money. I don't know who inherits that contract or who wants to take it on. Does anyone? Who realistically is going to take on Mike Williams? Maybe the Chiefs?
I think that's not exciting, is it?
But but every wide receiver can get linked to the Chiefs. I really can't think of a decent landing spot for Mike Williams right now, which makes sense for a team that's going to trade for that contract. So any team that's not going to make the playoffs isn't going to go for it. That's half the league. And then the teams that are going to make the playoffs more often than not are pretty covered at wide receiver. So maybe Washington push in. Can't see him being a great schematic fit for Washington, so I can't see that one really going. They already have Noah Brown as that deep threat guy. I'm struggling to think of a place where he can go.
The most NFL thingsy that would ever happen is for Mike Williams to join the Jets instead of Davante Adams and go and win a ring. It could
Well, Mike Williams is on the Jets.
That's what I mean. He joins the Chiefs, and wins a ring.
Joins the Chiefs. Yeah. You said the Jets. That's why I got confused.
No, joins the Chiefs as opposed to Davante Adams doing what he should have done, join the Chiefs, and then, well done, Mike. Big Mike got a ring.
Yeah, listen, that could happen. I don't know who's trading for that contract realistically, and I don't think. So what does he do? Does he go and train on his own? It's just a bit of a mess, and I kind of feel sorry for everyone involved. I feel sorry for the fans, because this should be really exciting. You're getting an archetype potential Hall of Fame wide receiver, and this should be greeted with real positivity, energy, and real oh my God, what a signing. You should be jumping out of your chair. And Jets fans are kind of thinking well, we're 2-4. And we're not all that sold on Aaron Rodgers. It just feels like, for me, I sort of made a comment to someone yesterday that I was like, if I was Joe Douglas, Aaron Rodgers is potentially going to get Joe Douglas fired. So if I was Joe Douglas, I'd be having the conversation at the end of the season saying, listen, you're going to the Hall of Fame. I don't really want to cut you and do that to your Hall of Fame career. Why don't you retire? Because I don't want to cut you, but why don't you retire, give us the cap relief, and go off into the sunset and be done with it? Because I don't really see. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to take this team. They're certainly not taking them to the Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to take them to the playoffs. So. But this is why I don't get this. You've just given all the power to Aaron Rodgers. You've basically said Aaron Rodgers is the de facto GM of this team. And we will give future assets for Aaron Rodgers to do the Aaron Rodgers thing now. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's such a dangerous, dangerous thing. Because ever since Tom Brady did this in Tampa, players have wanted to do this. Russell Wilson wanted to do this. Now Aaron Rodgers wants to do this, and people think this is cool. I can build my own team and bring all my own friends across, and we can build a team. The difference between Tom Brady and everybody else, Tom Brady won a ring. He won a ring doing this. This is the difference. He won a ring doing it. He brought back Gronkowski. He brought AB in, and he won a ring. And then they all left town. It was a very short-lived thing. This thing was a perfect thing for 12 months. And that was it. And you're trading real future assets now. Gronkowski cost a 4th round pick to get out of retirement. A 4th round pick's not that bad. Fine. AB was free. It was a signed contract. He was out of contract. Nothing paid for him. Julio Jones was free. He was out of contract. Tom Brady was getting players, and it wasn't really costing a heck of a lot. And Gronkowski was an upgrade on what we had at that position, in the sense of we had nothing at tight end. So having Gronkowski, was worth a 4th round pick. I think most teams would be upgrading and getting someone like him. And I know Devontae Adams is an upgrade, but he's potentially costing a 2nd round pick next year. And if he costs a 2nd round pick next year, I mean, that's a good play you're giving up. And if you don't win it now, you don't win it next year, what's the future? Because basically, Devontae Adams is not going to stick around when Aaron Rodgers isn't there. And Aaron Rodgers' contract ends next year. So you have a 15-month window to win the Super Bowl. That's a high price to pay.
Yeah, it's welcome to Locked On Jets, everybody. We appear to have filled a significant portion of our podcast with gangrene talk. We're literally gangrene right now as well. It's not it's a dying limb. No, seriously though. Obviously, that isn't the only trade that's happened today. The Bills have acquired Amari Cooper from the Browns for a 6th. They get Amari Cooper and a 2025 6th, and Cleveland gets a 2025 3rd and a 2026 7th. Does this is this a good move?
This I love. I think this is a great move. So we have seen through the first 6 weeks of the season that the Bills can win games, but they're not threatening anyone in the later stages of the playoffs with the receiving cast that they have. Keon Coleman is a very raw wide receiver. He's going to take a lot of time to come along and get to where he needs to get to. Wide receiver was the biggest need of this team going into the draft. They got to their point in the draft. I think there's rumors they tried to trade up. Their guys went. And what they did, and it was really smart, was they traded twice down to regroup and decide who they wanted to take at the top of the 2nd. So they traded down from where they were to the last pick in the 1st. It's because they let the Chiefs go up and get Worthy, because they didn't want Worthy. And then they sat down, got to the last pick, and then someone traded up. I can't remember who it was now, and traded up to get... Oh, it was... quarterback went, wasn't it? Who was the quarterback that went? Can't remember who it was now. But someone went and got quarterback and got the extra year on him. No, it was Carolina. Carolina went up, didn't they? They went up and got Jonathan Brooks.
Or did they get Leggett?
Well, they get Leggett. Sorry, you're right. They got Leggett. They got Xavier Leggett as at that pick. So they moved up to get him and get the extra year option on him, and the Bills slid back one, which meant they got overnight to sleep on it, and they got some picks for it. So they looked at what was left on the board, and they decided to go after Keon Coleman, which is fine. And I think, look, it is the one thing with this team is you can understand that what they're trying to do. They've got Khalil Shakir in the slot, good pick, good player, does what he needs to do, but they're struggling. They got Curtis Samuel in, who's not doing the job. You got Matt Collins, who's not really doing the job. He's got flashes, but it's not really happening. They really need a big threat guy. And this is very similar to the type of move they made a couple of years ago when they brought in Stephon Diggs. They bought a seasoned veteran who they can just plug and play into this team and get going. Again, I think he's going to take a bit of time to get going, but you're going to put one of the league's most accurate quarterbacks who has lacked a big play threat, and you're going to give him a big play threat. And so I really like this for the Bills. Do I think he is as good as Stephon Diggs when that move happened? No. Do I think that he is the solution to them winning a Super Bowl? No. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's of the caliber of Devontae Adams. I think he's better than what they've got. He's probably the best player you can kind of get right now, but he's not that elite franchise receiver. And I think the Bills probably don't want that elite franchise receiver. They kind of want to play a tier down from that. And you can see that in what they've done in recent years at the position. So I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move for Amari Cooper. He automatically shoots up in my rest of season rankings. He looks as a solid mid-range wide receiver 2. Put him somewhere between wide receiver 16 and 20. You can take that to the bank. And that'll be about the only thing that's going to snooker him from the overall finish will be 2 bye weeks, because he's had a bye week with the Browns, and he's going to have another bye week with the Bills. So he's only going to play 16 games or 15 games, and the others are going to play more. So, that's the only thing that will hurt his overall finish is the double bye week piece. But listen, I think at the end of the day, it's a good move for him. He becomes a better player for sure and a better option for them. So I do like that.
Nice. Is there any other trades, obviously, that we have seen have happened since we've been on air?
No, I have been checking because it seems to be the day for it. I think that's it. Trade deadline's coming up fairly soon. Mike Williams is obviously in the window. Like I said, we don't think I know anyone that's going to go for that. So we'll see what happens. I do think that there's some trades that will happen. We saw the Jags shipped an O-line, a defensive tackle off to Seattle. So he's got to go back on a flight early on his own to Seattle in Washington, which will be interesting. So it's quite a long flight. But he gets him out of playing in London for a second straight week. So, every cloud and all that. But no, I think that's it. I think we'll see some trades. I don't think they'll be as headliney as the 2 that we've had so far. But I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Absolutely. Now, if your show doc is still significantly long, my friend, dive into some of that before we get way ahead of ourselves.
All right. Well, I picked up some things that surprised me this week, and I watched the Jags firsthand in person at the London games. And the one thing that shocked me is it's just I always struggle when a team just gives up. And I'm not saying everyone on the Jags gave up. I don't think Trevor Lawrence did. I don't think Gabe Davis did. I don't think Brian Thomas did. I don't think Andre Sisco did. I don't think Josh Hines Ward did. But there were some players that absolutely gave up. And Christian Kirk's one of them. There's a reason Christian Kirk isn't getting the football, and it's pure and simple, is he's not putting in a good amount of effort. If you look at him in the way that he's running, he kind of like half arses a route when he knows he's not getting the football. So he doesn't even sell the route. And it just means that it's much easier to cover. And it's really bad for Trevor Lawrence because you need to have those decoy routes run crisp, because if they're not, and the safety or the corner knows that route is a dead route, it's not a thing, they can shift over and they can go and make an instant reaction to a potential play across the middle. And when you've got someone like Evan Ingram who's back in the lineup and the ball's going to go over the middle a lot more, that can cause some real issues. So, for me, I don't know if Christian Kirk just doesn't want to be there anymore. He's not buying into what's going on. I don't know what it is. And there's some players on the defense, especially the back end. That defensive performance by the Jags is one of the worst I've ever seen in person. And they're a team that are in real trouble. And, I look at this team going to play the Patriots on Sunday, and I'm thinking, first of all, what did England do to get Jags Patriots? Because that's rough. But I'd be taking, I saw the line. So the line is set. The Jags are favored by 4, and the over-under is 41. I don't see either of those things happening. I don't see the Jags winning, and I don't see there being over 41 points. Could be wrong, but I think Drake may look good. Like if I had to pick a team right now to win that game, I'd go with the Patriots, because you can see the effort. The talent isn't there. If you line them up on paper, the Jaguars should win this by 10, 15 points on paper. But when I look at the effort and I look at the progression of the two teams, I'd probably take the Pats.
Good. Well, I'm now very excited for Sunday.
Ayuk's lack of usage is really a concern. So again, only 4 targets. He's running a lot of routes, 93% of routes run last week, but just 4 targets. So his targets per route run on Sunday was really, really low. It was 14%. Now, putting it in perspective, that's like a wide receiver 3 number, and he is effectively on this team the wide receiver 3 right now. It's Samuel, then it's Jennings, and then it's Ayuk on current play. Now, we kind of got it the first couple of weeks. He was coming back. He'd not trained all off season. He wasn't up to speed. We're 6 weeks into the season. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know if it's a disagreement. He signed a new contract, right? So I don't really know how we've got a player who has signed a huge contract and they're paying him all this money and they're not using him. It's a bit baffling to me. And I don't really know. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, do you sell Brandon Ayuk and then hope he doesn't go off? But if he does, you're going to pay for it. But I kind of half feel that if you don't sell him now, there isn't long left in this window where you can get a reasonable return on. I feel like if he has another 2 or 3 weeks like this, it's only going to get worse. So I think that this week 7, is a really pivotal moment for Brandon Ayuk owners. It's going to be very hard after this week to shift him if he doesn't perform again. Because you could always say, well, he missed preseason, there's been injuries, there's been a lot of change, and we know what he's getting. He's just got this big contract. They clearly value him. And it's like, we get to a point where we think, actually, no, I think we need to to pull it. So it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, it's a hard watch right now. And then the last one is just, I was surprised the Bucs' ability to run the football, because I don't think I've seen it in about 6 years. Do you remember a show we did in the off season and I called Dave Canella's a fraud?
Yep.
And I said he was a fraud. And I said, I'm so excited for Liam Cohen. He's going to ignite this offense in so many ways. The Buccaneers. Oh, here we go. Some breaking news. MVS has been released from the Bills.
From who? Sorry, you broke
up. Bills. MVS has been released from the Bills to make way for Amari Cooper.
Okay.
Well, it makes sense, but so this was the Bucs on Sunday. 594 yards, which is a franchise record. They rushed for 172 yards in the fourth quarter.
Good grief.
Which is a franchise record. And it was without their lead running back because Rashad White didn't play. They're currently tied for the most points scored in the NFL this season. Baker Mayfield leads the NFL in passing touchdowns with 15. They scored 51 points, despite the fact that they evacuated on Tuesday and went to New Orleans with no practice facility because of the hurricane. And they're the first team with 300 yards passing and 275 yards rushing yards in a road game since 1962. Like, that's insane. 275. It was the third largest rushing performance of all time from the Buccaneers. And I'm just not used to them running the football. And now there's a genuine question, right? They did this without Rashad White. Does Rashad White even get a look? Like, he's going to get a look in because he's the one. But what does this mean? Have we now got a 3-headed backfield in Tampa and they all get convoluted? Because we all thought, well, Bucky Irving's going to be the guy. And then Sean Tucker's come along and absolutely blown him out of the water. And you're sitting there thinking, like, this is mad. Sean Tucker rushed for 132 yards on Sunday. And you're sitting there thinking, like, first of all, Dave Canella sat Sean Tucker for an entire year and did nothing with him. So this guy's just been sat on a shelf for 18, more than that, 25 games in the NFL? He's pretty much just sat on a shelf, just collecting dust. And then just come on and, like, see you later. But then it means, what do we do with Tampa going forward? Because I genuinely don't know anymore. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, like, well, it's really good news. The Buccaneers have learned how to run the football. And I'm thinking, like, they did about Rashad White. Rashad White's the clear guy. Does he get? How much does he get? How much does Irvin get? How much does Tucker get? It's a nice problem to have if you're Liam Cohen, to have 3 guys who can run the football. But for fantasy owners, this is a mess. This is going to be a real mess for the coming weeks. And I genuinely don't know how it plays out. I just don't. I'm a big believer you can't put the genie back in the box. So now you've got Sean Tucker, and now you've seen what he can do. You can't go put him back on the shelf for the next 25 games. Like, he's a thing now. He's a live, living thing. Because if you don't run the football well, people are going to ask, well, where's that guy?
All right. On the same vein, then, Ray Davis, can we put that genie back in the bottle after 152 yards?
No.
Yes, Cook was injured. But
no, I said this on the waiver wire pod, right? So exactly the same problem. So he absolutely is a thing now. Now, how much of a thing is the big question. James Cook is going to be the lead back, right? I don't think there's any dispute on that. But are we going to get what we've got in with the Jets, and we've got this sort of hole where we've got Ray Davis playing the Braden Allen role, and there's a bit of a cap, and it caps the upside of James Cook? That's a real possibility. And I think the worst thing that's happened to James Cook owners is not the fact they lost the fantasy game because they put him in the lineup and he's not played, because that news came out really, really late on Monday and you got no time to pivot. It's the fact that Ray Davis had such a good game and he looked better than James Cook has at any point this season. And now that's a real problem. So yeah, you can't put that genie back in the box. And so, yeah, Ray Davis is a thing. Like, you got to go and pick him up. And if you're the James Cook owner, you're in a bit of trouble now, because you effectively are going to lose, 10, 20% of James Cook? Realistically? The other thing could happen where he has less touches, but is more efficient. And that makes that up. And that is, as a James Cook owner, that's kind of what you're hoping for.
For sure. Next one. Where are we? I'm lost. We're just onto your old school Murf on the Streets stats time.
Yeah, proper old school, right? So yeah, I've been doing some digging and I started looking at some things that I think are really interesting. Now, I haven't watched all the games yet because I was at the game, so really focused on a lot of the early games and then some overall trends, and then I'll try and get some late game stuff later on in the week. First concern right now is Michael Pittman. I was very big on him in the preseason. I felt him and Richardson were going to be a really good pairing. They were both undervalued. I guess I was wrong on both of those, and I'll take the L. Michael Pittman right now is at 16% targets per route run. That's incredibly low. Josh Downs with Joe Flacco, 30% targets per route run on Sunday. So that is telling you that Josh Downs is the first read. Michael Pittman is the second or third read in this offense. Now, part of that is also there was no Jonathan Taylor in this team. So there was a bit of light here for Pittman owners, but it's not much. It's like a glimmer. There was no Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor comes in. Some of that will come away from Josh Downs to Jonathan Taylor. But it does mean that, and this was a close game, so the game script didn't really come into question. It says to me that unless the Colts are in real negative game script and they're chasing a big game, Pittman is not the alpha here. He is in terms of contract, he is in terms of stature and position, but the numbers aren't supporting that kind of role and consistency. And I don't know if it's a Joe Flacco thing or if this is an organizational thing and a scheme thing. The point I'm struggling with is, where does this, like, right now we're basically getting floor performances from Pittman, and it's okay in the sense of you would still play him from a fantasy perspective, but I don't see him being where you took him in drafts, and I can't see how that happens. And I'm guessing the only way that can happen is Pittman comes back, because as it currently stands, I'm not sure. Eden Martin, it's good to see you on Sunday. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Pittman. If you need a late waiver wire target, add Bub Means. What a name, Bub Means.
I genuinely had to read that and make sure you hadn't typo there.
It's his name.
Bub
Bub
Means.
Bub Means scored a TD against Tampa in that weird. By the way, that New Orleans Tampa game is the most insane game I've watched in the last, I don't know, long time, years at least.
Well, when I saw it, it was Tampa were maybe up by a score, and I thought, well, Tampa have put that one to bed. And then I saw that they'd scored over 50 at
Right.
New Orleans. I'm thinking, what's happened?
It was 17-0 in the first quarter. At the end of the first quarter, it was 17-0 Tampa. So they scored a touchdown. Went opening drive, great opening drive, scored a touchdown. Then almost one of the very first plays from scrimmage from Spencer Rattler. It's not his fault. He throws a pass to Chris Olave. Chris Olave makes the catch. A fumble is forced out. Chris Olave then gets injured on the play. Anton Winfield Jr. scoops up and scores. They reviewed it. It's a touchdown. It's 14-0. And the Bucs score again 17-0. Then New Orleans scored 20 points in 7 minutes. So Rashid Shaheed scored a punt return. Baker Mayfield threw 2 interceptions in like 5 minutes, or like I think it was 2 and 3 drives. It was absolutely mad. Like just it was just a crazy game. So they went 20-17 in front, then the Buccaneers scored, made it 24-20, and then the Saints ended the half with a touchdown. Halftime score was 27-20 Saints. Buccaneers came out and they rolled out 24 point. It was 27-24. So the Bucs pulled out 27 points in the second half, unanswered.
That's ridiculous.
To end it 51-27. The Buccaneers only conceded points in one quarter in this game, and they conceded 27 points in it. It was a stupid game. It's a great watch. I loved it. 51 points in NOLA doesn't happen very often. So, just funny. But yeah, Bub Means scored a touchdown in that game. So with no Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed also got an injury, and he sat out a good portion of this game after he scored. Bub Means got 25% targets per route run, which was highest of any of the Saints on Sunday. So they play Thursday. So they're playing in 2 days' time. Chris Olave in the concussion protocol is not going to clear that. Rashid Shaheed's already come out. Doesn't look like he's going to be available either. Bub Means is going to be the wide receiver 1 on that team on Sunday, on Thursday night.
Okay.
To Spencer Rattler. Now, again, you could look at like A.T. Perry if it was another team, and you go, yeah, maybe, but no, it's going to be Bub Means. As to how worthy he is, I don't know, but you got to take a spin, right? Tank Dell's season has arrived. It's taken a long time, but with no Nico Collins for the next 3 weeks, at least, maybe longer. 9 targets, 29% targets per route run, which were both team highs, which was great. I'd mentioned Drake May. He looked really good at times. 243 yards passing. Would like to see a bit more. But he got 38 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were absolute delights, by the way. 2 INTs, 1 fumble lost, and 4 sacks. So should be fun in London. If you are a lover of Greg Dortch, time to give him the "it's not you, it's me" speech when really it is him. Greg Dortch is not a thing. Greg Dortch season never started. It's over. 5 targets, 21 air yards. Keep in mind that Marv Harrison Jr. missed almost the entire game. I think he went out on like the first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's early.
It's not a thing, right? But Greg Dortch can go. James Conner was a little banged up in this game, so he missed quite a bit of it. Now, if you're doing box score scouting here, you would look at Emery DeMarcado and say, well, okay, Emery DeMarcado had like more stats. He was on the field more. He had more carries. But really, Trey Benson is the guy. Now, DeMarcado had the carries when this game was dead. Like, this game was done and dusted. There was no change in the result, and they rolled DeMarcado out there to just rack up garbage time. So, Trey Benson, I think, is going to be the guy if James Conner misses time. Packers passing tank really confusing. There's so many mouths to feed. Dontavian Wicks got injured, and it really didn't help clear things up. So Romeo Dobbs ran the most routes, but he only had 4 targets, yet he scored 2 touchdowns. Watson also had 4 targets, but he led the team in air yards, but almost all of those was from a long TD he scored. Jaden Reed had the most targets, but he had negative air yards on the day, negative 11 air yards. So it's really confusing because it's kind of a really bizarre space that we're in with the Packers, who put up a lot of points. Jordan Love threw 4 TDs. Like, it's a really weird space to be in with the Packers offense. I effectively am this. Jaden Reed, top tier wide receiver, going to knock on the door wide receiver 1, for the season maybe. And then you got a big drop, and then it's going to be some games it's going to be Dobbs, and some games it's going to be Watson. And I think it really is a question of schematically which one of those is the better option, game script. So Dobbs lines up really well against teams who play predominantly in zone. Christian Watson, really good deep threat, got a lot of pace, can get behind the defense, can pull up the big plays that Romeo Dobbs perhaps doesn't. It's going to be a bit of cat and mouse with those two, I think, throughout the season to work out who's going to be. And it is going to be a week-to-week decision. You're really going to have to analyze those decisions on the scheme, the team, the game script, where you think it's going to go, and make decisions off that. And I'm going to try and do that for you in the Fantasy Football Bible every week to help out.
Nice.
Jeremy McNichols, not a thing. I thought he might be, but really didn't do anything. Now, again, there's a thought here that they played against a really good run defense. That kind of makes sense. There's a good thing that, they were in negative game script. That also kind of makes sense. But Austin Eckler had the majority of the ball. Looks like they're just going to go with Austin Eckler to run the football. So, Jeremy Nichols maybe gets goal line carries, but you don't need to hide him. The trap play here is Noah Brown. You look at Noah Brown's box score, and you're a really good game. But the context of this game was they were chasing it the whole way. So they had to have big plays and big chunk plays. And that's what Noah Brown kind of gives you. The way I put it in the show notes is think of a less productive Rashid Shaheed. I was almost going to say a poor man's Rashid Shaheed, but I'm not going to do that. But that is kind of what you're looking at. It's like Rashid Shaheed light is what I'd call Noah Brown. And you have to think again about the games where they're going to trail versus the games that they're going to be comfortable or competitive in. And I'm not saying they weren't competitive against the Ravens, but you have to look at games where they're really going to be up against it. And that's where you'll get the best out of Noah Brown. So for me, he's a trap play. So I'm not in on him at all. Evan Ingram's back, baby. Missed a lot of games. 10 targets, 10 catches, 33% targets per route run. I don't think this offense looked much better with him in it. I was told it would be. I'm not so sure that was the case. But he is a solid, tool, and he's going to be a top 5 tight end for the season. So don't worry about that. Gabe Davis had a Gabe Davis day. Try and ignore.
I will.
I think this team will be under new management soon. I genuinely believe that. I don't think Doug Pederson, if they lose this game on Sunday, will be in charge of this team anymore. So I kind of think like the ball's going to Gabe Davis because Christian Kirk's given up. If there's a new Presidente in town and a new head honcho, Christian Kirk might all of a sudden pop up, and this might change significantly. So I'm just not buying this Gabe Davis hype. And there's nothing against him; like he was fine. Kenneth Walker had 10 high-value touches on Thursday Night Football, which against the 49ers is impressive. It's the most of any running back this week. And the high-value touches is important because that's where a lot of fantasy points come from. And so he, for me, is sneakily on track to be a top 6 running back the rest of the way in. Partly due to the injuries that have happened and the injuries that are ongoing at the position, but partly just due to the fact he's playing really, really well at the moment. There's no challenge to his role, and he is demonstrating a really high value of fantasy points, and he's absolutely dominating right now. He actually has an insane 9.8% touchdown rate, which is just mad. Like, to put it in perspective, a guy who has a role similar to anyone else who has a role similar to him, that touchdown rate's about 3.
Whoa.
At a good point, maybe 4. So for him to be up there is just, it's mad. Like it's really, really, really huge. What he's doing right now. So I pulled some fantasy points data. That's where I got that from. There's a bit more I wanna grab as well. So running back leaders in fantasy points per snap according to fantasy points data. David Montgomery 0.66 fantasy points per snap. Derrick Henry 0.62. By the way, Derrick Henry is almost 100 yards ahead of Jordan Mason in terms of rushing yards this season. And he's almost 200 ahead of the guy in third. Which is just mad.
Whoa.
The reason I pulled this stat is Chase Brown is third in fantasy points per snap at 0.59. So you can drop Zach Moss. He's not going to be affecting things moving forward. Don't drop him, sorry. Trade him. Make people think he's got a value and ship him. Ship Zach Moss wherever you can. If you can even do a straight up trade for Chase Brown, then do it. I would try and get something in return and make people believe that Zach Moss is still a thing, because he's not a thing. He can go. Like, get what you can for him and ship him, because Chase Brown is taking over that backfield. The other ones in that list, Joe Mixon, James Cook at 0.55, and Alvin Kamara 0.51. This is just a really niche stat, and I did steal this from Reception Perception Matt at Yahoo Sports. So 82.4% of Rashad Bateman's receptions have resulted in a first down or a touchdown this season.
It's the most Rashad Bateman stat ever.
Rashad Bateman's a guy, right? He's a guy that if you're really struggling and you just need to get points, like touchdowns, you almost have to treat Rashad Bateman like a tight end. If you think that if you're really struggling with injuries and you think, I just need 8 points, 10 points on my roster, and I don't know where I'm going to get them from, then Rashad Bateman is your guy, because he just gets enough of that productivity to get there. But he's never going to be a stud. 5 running backs this season have had all their teams running back carries inside the 5. J.K. Dobbins, I don't think that's going to last much longer with Keanu Vidal. James Conner, who is injured and potentially might not do that. But the other 3 are interesting. Tony Pollard, Ramondre Stevenson, and Breece Hall. Derrick Henry's at 91.7%. Patrick Ricard, star 1 or 2.
Tony Pollard, Murph, we're there now. Come on.
Well, we're there with Tony Pollard.
Okay, good.
low end running back 1 rest of the season.
Thank goodness.
He's been sneakily good. Tajay Spears can go. I stick my hand up and say I got that one wrong. I thought Tajay Spears would be more of a thing. I really thought he would compete for this role. Now he can go off rosters. He's a roster clog now. So there are players like Jaylen Warren, who I talked about in the waiver wire show, I wouldn't get rid of. Jaylen Warren I would hold or buy. I do think that Najee Harris, I know Najee Harris is coming off a 100-yard game, but it took him 6 games to get there. He doesn't look particularly great. And I actually think there's a pathway to Jaylen Warren, especially if Russell Wilson's going to start, which is what it's trending like that's going to happen on Sunday. So there's the pathway there for Jaylen Warren. I don't think that pathway is there for Tajay Spears. So I think you can get rid of Tajay Spears. If you've got him on a roster, you can ship him and go trade him in for something else. I'd go and get Vidal. I'd go and get Jaylen Warren. I list about 7 running backs this morning that you can go and acquire. And it really depends on where your team is. So don't chase the 1 or 2 week hotnesses if you're 5-1, 6-0, 1-5, or 0-6, because it doesn't help you, right? In those 4 scenarios, grabbing a 1 to 2 week hotness doesn't help you. What you need is to get someone who could potentially be a longer term play. So Konami Vidal absolutely fits that boot. Jaylen Warren potentially fills that hole. I list a few guys on the show this morning or earlier on that you can go and get, because I think for me, like if I'm 6-0, 5-1, you don't need to ship your fab for instant gratification. Like Isaac Guerrero, for example, he's a 1 week play at best. Ty Chandler's a 1 week, 2 week play at best. Like, don't ship your fab on it, because 6-0, 5-1, you're still on good track for the playoffs. Same again if you're 0-6, 1-5. 1 win doesn't help you. You need to find a player who's going to get you 3 or 4 wins. Tyler Algier, for example, is a player listed. Is someone who can help.
Marvelous.
So yeah, we're there on Tony Pollard. We can put him in safest houses, and we can get rid of Tajay.
Hooray! Okay. Any injuries or situations we need to monitor before we jet for this week?
I'm not listing all of them, but these are the ones to be keeping an eye on this week. Aaron Jones, is he fit? Or we got an injury there? Dallas Goedert, he didn't play much of the game at all, so he's a player I would absolutely be keeping an eye on. Malik Neighbors, twice in the concussion protocol, so there's a real concern there. Hopefully he's good to go this week. Devin Singletary, and what happens there with like Tyrone Tracy. Cooper Kupp, is he going to be able to go this week? I would say probably not, but keep an eye. Nick Chubb, I hear he is going to be back this week. As is, I hear, TJ Hawkinson. So if you stashed him for all this time on your IR, you might be able to dust him off and get him ready for the season. Expect limited results up front, but I think you can see where we go. Rashid Shaheed is another one. He's been really good this season, as I said, wide receiver 22. We can see where he's going to be for the next. I don't think he plays Thursday. I'd be working off the assumption that I don't think Rashid Shaheed, on the limited news that's been given us, is going to play, but we never know. We will see what happens. I hope he does, in the sense of for fantasy football, I've got a lot of him, and he's in my Scott Fish Bowl team, so I could really use him. But yeah, we'll see where we are in a few weeks' time.
Absolutely. Again, Rush Nation, if you do fancy another dose of mid-season or drafting at all, Murf is running some mid-seasons. He's put links absolutely everywhere, and if you need it again, just get in contact. I'm sure he'll hook you up. There's a £7.50 entry fee, and it is all going to
for charity.
To our chosen. Yeah, it's going to our chosen charity. Finally, I just want to shout out our friend Stormo. Our thoughts are with you at this truly sad time, my friend. So keep your chin up and just know that we're always here if you fancy a chat. But Rush Nation, we are basically halfway through the. Yes, Murph, go on.
I want you to wrap up with 2 things. Sorry, 3. I'm going to be really quick.
3. I'll give you 3. Right. Go on.
1, FFCC sheets are updated. If you're in that, you can go in and see if you won or lost this week, plus the Squid Game. So keep an eye on that. We're down to the last 85 teams.
Am I out?
Yes, you are. I did warn you. I did warn you you were going to lose. Congratulate Danny. Danny is a heavy listener of this pod and a Patreon. So I want you to congratulate Danny live on air.
Well done, Danny. Well done.
Could have said that with a bit more gusto, mate. Come on.
Well, it's the furthest I've ever got. And I thought after I got out of round 1, this was my year. But no, congratulations, Danny. Well done. Go on and win it.
Yeah, I've got to do the same for Chris Budge, because he knocked me out of the plate. So we're both losers, mate, together. But could have lost to 2 better blokes, I would say. So
absolutely.
I'm quite happy with that. So that's the first one. Second is you can sign up to the FFCC 2025.
26.
So those links are everywhere. So make sure you do that. And then lastly, we got a very special gift from Fanatics. I have it here. There is a video on the YouTube, only on the YouTube, of us with me opening this box and telling you what's inside. I'm not going to tell you what's inside now. You're going to go and watch the video on YouTube. Subscribe to channel on YouTube and watch that video. It's 5 minutes long. It's not that long. If you can skip the first half of it if you really want, but it does give you the instructions of what you need to do. It is really simple. All you got to do is like and subscribe to the channel and put a comment as to what you think the score is going to be on Sunday. And I will take whoever submits a comment. Doesn't matter if wins or loses, or could be out by 1,000,000 points. I don't care. And yeah, if you could tell 2 friends as well, and they'll tell 2 friends. We're putting a lot of effort into YouTube this year. For me, I'd love to get to over 500 subscribers by the end of the year, because we put a lot of content out there, and be good to. This is one of those things that we'll be doing to give us push. But also thanks to Fanatics for believing in us and giving us this great price. And it is a great price.
Yes, let's get to 500 subscribers. It would be a significant achievement for us, and it is a great prize. So, Rush Nation, as Murph said, we are halfway through the season. It is now or never for your teams that are heading towards a playoff push, and especially for those that are significantly further away. You can still get there. It's mathematically possible. Therefore, we are not giving up. But if you're going, actually, no, wait, if you're going to the game on Sunday, hit me up, because I will be there with my 2 young cousins. So it's always an experience taking them to the football. But until next week, Rush Nation, as always, don't forget, keep rushing. Murph, do the wave.